Just previous slide. So this is where we are. Next we have to go deeper, and we should be governed by this psyche. Now this psyche is actually what in our Indian scriptures we call as Jivatma. So in the first level of our practice, we are aware of our influence on the lower three planes of life: the physical matter, the desire matter, and the lower mental matter. And here, you as a Jivatma, and this Jivatma is aware of its births with Narayana. That is what Sri Aurobindo always calls Nara-Narayana combination. The soul which is aware of its continuity of births is Narayana. The soul which is only aware of this present birth is Nara. And always remember that Nara and Narayana come together. Always it is a mathematical equation. Whenever Sri Aurobindo comes, Mother will come. And whenever Mother and Sri Aurobindo are there, all of us will be together. The only difference is Mother and Sri Aurobindo know it, we don't know it. Whether you know it or not, it is a fact. This is exactly what Sri Krishna said to Arjuna also. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa. I and you have been born many times together. I know all of them, you don't know it. So what you supposed to do? You do what I say, because I know everything. And luckily for us, Sri Aurobindo has given this monumental work where every thought aspect has been taken care of. We will read it, we will finish it in these 6 days. And you will understand how he has taken care of every thought. The only thing is, when we are reading it, we should be aware of it. So this continuity of consciousness, we should take it for granted. When you are reading this synthesis of yoga, you are not reading it for the first time. You are reading it for the first time in English language. When you are with Sri Aurobindo and Mother, do you think they have wasted their energies on us? No, they can't waste their energies. We are not aware of what is happening to us. This realization is a must for integral yoga practitioner. Then what happens? You have a guarantee that because from life after life you are being followed by the great man, in this birth, very clearly he has asked us that this message should go to the world. Then the only thing which we should do as Sri Aurobindonians is to spread this message of life divine and synthesis of yoga. And for this, you do not have to go to anywhere. You just sit and study. This type of activity is enough to spread the message. But this should be a continuous 365-day practice. Not a simple class for 1 week by somebody and then you forget. It should continue. And then only we can realize what Krishna meant to Sri Aurobindo when he said, I am giving independence to India to spread this thing. And for 60 years, I don't think we have done anything in this context, in this view of things. Next. Afterwards or concurrently, we have to spiritualize the being in its entirety by a descent of a divine light, force, purity, knowledge, freedom and whiteness. This we can't supply. This happens. That is what he said. We can't spiritualize ourselves, but the Guru can spiritualize. The Master can spiritualize. The supermind can spiritualize us. But that is the last step. Next. It is necessary to break down the limits of the personal mind, life, physically. This is what we are supposed to do. You try to understand the importance of it. These 2 pages, 281 and 282, every day if you can read it like Bhagavad Gita, but don't make it a parayana. I have read it. Practice it. And if my thoughts will help you, it's my pleasure. But certainly Sri Aurobindo and Mother will take care of you. You will know the difference of thoughts when you are reading it. I guarantee it. The only thing is, you have to break down the limits of the personal mind. Do you ever, when talking, forget that you are talking and you talk something? Especially teachers have this experience. They go on teaching the subject. Just before starting the subject, they are aware that they are talking and the students are hearing. But after some time, what happens? The students forget that they are hearing. The teacher forgets that they are teaching. Both of them merge in the subject. That is breaking down of the personal mind. And this you should do when you are reading these lines. You should break down the personal mind. And then what you have to do? Not only the personal mind, your life and physicality. A very peculiar word in Sri Aurobindo's English. We find these difficulties of the language. What does he mean by physicality? Physicality means your awareness of physical consciousness. That means I am talking here, I am aware of this book, I am aware of this low color thing, I am aware of all of you, I am aware of the fan moving. This is physicality. You understand now what is physicality? You are aware of your physical surroundings, but you have to spiritualize it. Just being aware physically of this chair and that is not enough. You should know how to spiritualize it. In the introductory 5 chapters, Sri Aurobindo very clearly tells us how to do it. So don't worry. But I am stressing this because these 2 pages, 81 and 82, by now you must have understood, Sri Aurobindo has given you a timetable, how you should go about his integral yoga. Dissolve the ego. This is the most important point. The difference between overmind and supermind is the very fine layer of ego. You have to dissolve the ego. This dissolving of ego, if you have a time to read Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's life by Romeo Rolla, read it. There you will understand the various steps through which Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa entered the ego dissolving state, keeping ego with him. When you dissolve the ego, what happens generally is this body is gone. And you will not be able to revive it. But in Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's life, a very peculiar dadiwala comes. Not physically, of course, in his subtle vision, and he says, Bhava Mukho Bhava. This is the word that has been utilized by Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's guide. And what Sri Aurobindo here says is, dissolve your ego. Both mean the same thing. but a bhava mukho bhava. You do read this as an exercise. Get the biography of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa by R.R. Romeo Rolla, a Nobel Prize winner. He has written a biography of Sri Vivekananda also. Read it. Then you can understand the principal steps of integral yoga as practiced by Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, reaching the intuitive mind. The levels. You should have a role model so that you can know where you stand. So if you read Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and his life, you will know the various steps by which the personal mind reaches the intuitive mind. That is bhava mukho bhava. That is where the integration comes in. You will have to find all the great people in world's history to understand Aurobindo, leave alone to practice Sri Aurobindo. How everything becomes automatically integrated in his sadhanas. And first I told you about the Gita and the Krishna's voice telling that he is giving freedom to India. And then I talked about Vivekananda's help to Sri Aurobindo. And now I am talking about Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's role as a partner to Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. You try to understand this, all of us are partners, but Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a very active partner of integral yoga. This we will have to understand. And Sri Aurobindo himself talks about Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in the introductory chapters. Next. Yoga is a rapid and concentrated conscious evolution of the being, but however rapid, even though it may affect in a single life what in an unassisted nature might take centuries and millenniums or many hundreds of lives, still all evolution must move by stages. This is what you have to underline. Whether it takes 100 years, millennium or one lifetime, it has to go by stages. You have to cross the first stage, then the second stage, and the third stage. There is no shortcuts. So you just can't say that he will directly go to the supramental descent. That is what he warned. It should not be your primary aim until you are sure that you have reached all the stages. And what are those stages? I repeat again and again: the higher mind, the illumined mind by intuition, then the intuitional mind, then the overmind. And there I am giving you the various names of the avatars which have the illumined mind is Sri Rama, overmind is Sri Krishna, intuitional mind and the border of ego sense is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So, when we talk about integral yoga, you should know the various levels of consciousness the great heroes have. To which level of mind Bhagat Singh belongs, you should be able to tell. The stages are very much important. And you can only move by stages. That is what sometimes I think, that just as the quantum physics and chemistry are gaining ground in science, Sri Aurobindo has already quantized spiritualism. And when you say quantized, separate beings, separate quanta. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is a quanta. Vivekananda is a quanta. Madame Blavatsky is a quanta. And all this integrated becomes Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. These stages you have to understand and you have to grow. And I guarantee that if you can read this book, you can finish it in 1 year, all these stages. It is not difficult. The only thing is, all life must become yoga. Saying is very easy. That is why I am stressing it. If everything you do becomes a yoga, yoga means what? Conscious of the evolutionary process at that moment. If you are aware of it, if you are aware of the consciousness, of the consciousness of evolution, then it is yoga. Still, all evolution must move by stages. Even the greatest rapidity and concentration of the movement cannot swallow up all the stages or reverse natural process and bring the end near to the beginning. A hasty and ignorant mind, a too eager force, easily forget this necessity. This is, you should understand, don't be hasty. Let us try to understand what he wants to tell. And that is why I say read it in his own language, because it is mantric. You understand what I mean by mantric now? It pulls you to that level of consciousness, those words. When a doctor imparts his knowledge to his students, the students are not doctors before they hear him, but they becomes doctor after they hear him, is it not? What do they do in the classroom? They just hear it. You hear these sounds, let them reverberate in your brain when you are reading it. A hasty and ignorant mind, a too eager force, easily forgets this necessity. They rush forward to make the supermind an immediate aim and expect to pull it down with a pitchfork from its highest heights in the infinite. This is not only an absurd expectation, but full of danger, because your ego sense develops. And once when the ego sense develops, it is very difficult to remove, especially when you are practicing yoga. So be careful of these dangers. We come to the introduction. There will 1 minute. Another error that has to be guarded against is also one to which our mentality is easily prone. It is to take some higher intermediate consciousness or even any kind of supernormal consciousness for the supermind. Be careful about it. That is where I am giving you these role models, so that you can put them before your experience and see. If they tally, that means you are in that plane. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, where is he? Between the intuitional mind and the illuminant plane, in the center, where the ego is being just lost. Vivekananda, a bit higher, nearer to the supramental plane. Sri Aurobindo himself accepts it. Even though Vivekananda never mentioned about it, Sri Aurobindo was very specific that he has indicated about supramental truths. So you have not only to read, but you have to evaluate also what you are reading, because that will be your measuring stick. And I give you as a homework, to what plane does Shankaracharya belong, Ramanujacharya belong in the mental planes. Naturally, be sure you may get confused that they belong to the supermind. That is the warning he is giving. It is very easy to get confused, to take that some higher intermediate consciousness which is not yet supramental, to think that it is supramental. Okay? And there we integrate all the philosophers in the world, all the teachers in the world, all the leaders in the world as a part of the integral yoga. Next. Even the achievement of a complete inner revelation. These are the guiding lines. Continuing of that last para, I think, page 284, first para, line 27. All of you got it? (284). All of you got it? Even the achievement, page 284. You go from below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th line from below, okay? Even the achievement of a complete inner liberation. That was the aim of our Vedic seers. That is where they stopped. even the achievement of a complete inner liberation and a high spiritual consciousness. This high spiritual consciousness, he divides the rishis into two categories. The rishis, the maharshis and the rajarshis are one category, and the brahmarshis and devarshis are the other category. So the first category, the rishis, the maharshis, the rajarshis belong to a complete inner liberation. But the brahmarshis and devarshis, after liberation, they worked for the human cause. You know the brahmarshis and devarshis, the Narada especially always acts even though he is liberated. You understand the difference? The brahmarshi and devarshis work for the divine cosmic world. The rishis, the maharshis and rajarshis, if they are liberated, they are happy. Is not that supreme transformation. That is not what supermind is. It is higher than these two categories. For we may have that achievement, a status perfect in itself, in essence, and still our dynamic parts may in their instrumentation belong to an enlightened spiritualized mind, and may be in consequence, like all mind, defective even in its greater power or knowledge. So before you can have the real supramental descent, if there is even a iota of defect in your lower mind, it is dangerous. But you need not worry in integral yoga about the dangers, because Mother and Sri Aurobindo have a safety valve fixed in this sadhana. Unless and until you have a perfect surrender, you will not get supramental descent. And whenever there is a defect in your thinking process, you cannot have a perfect surrender, therefore no danger. So while reading this, you may find that it is very dangerous, but Sri Aurobindo is a master craftsman. He put the safety valve also. Still subject to a partial or local obscuration or a limitation by the original circumscribing essence. Okay. Now we go to the introduction. First page or fifth page. We start the introduction, and I hope I will finish the introduction 5 chapters today. Introduction, the conditions of synthesis. ఇంకా ముందుకెళ్ళాలిరా dinner. Life and yoga. Fifth line. Every form tends towards harmonizing complexity and totality, which again breaks apart into various channels of special effort and tendency, only to unite once more in a larger and puissant synthesis. You got these lines? Page 5. Then the second point continues. Page 6. Huh? Is it page 6 or page 5? Page 5. It may be a printing. Okay? No, if there is a confusion, let us be clear. That is what Sri Aurobindo says. Yoga means no confusion. He is still confused, you see.
It is different edition.
Acha, different edition. Okay. But you can help him. You just help him. Or you have the printouts? Even though we know it, a particular part of the physicality is finding it difficult, help him. That is real yoga. A real integral yoga. Got it? Okay. You give him the printouts also. Ichchesharu kada? Okay. Every such form tends towards a harmonized complexity and totality, which again breaks apart into various channels of special effort and tendency, only to unite once more in a larger and more puissant synthesis. That is the first part. Now the second part. Development of forms is an imperative rule of effective manifestation. Where is it? Continuation. Development into forms is an imperative rule of effective manifestation. At all truth and practice, too strictly formulated becomes old, and much if not all of its virtue, it must be constantly renovated by streams of spirit, revivifying the dead and dying vehicle and changing it if it is to acquire a new life. So this is the first fundamental rule of life which we should remember, that whenever that a complexity is a condition. The human body is the most complex form that has been evolved in the physical planet Earth. Complexity is the first rule. And now what is the second rule? Sometime of other, this complexity becomes worn out. Then it has to dissolve and again reform a more complex form. So, to be perpetually reborn is the condition of a material immortality. This is the first rule or law of integral yoga. This is the first law. To be perpetually reborn is the condition of a material immortality. Of that, what I told you, we should be aware that we were always together with Sri Aurobindo. We are born with Sri Aurobindo, and even now we are working with Sri Aurobindo. Has left only his physical body. His vital body is as active as ever. So that is the meaning when I said to be perpetually reborn is the condition of a material immortality. Got the point? What I want to convey is the continuity of consciousness is there. The evolution is continuously growing. What we are now trying to do is to take the reins of evolution into our hands. Instead of nature, the reins of evolution must be now in our hands. So what will happen? You will be perpetually reborn. That is why one of the greatest masters has told that each day is a new birth, each night is a new death. You should live in such a tremendous space. Millions of evolution, millenniums of evolution must be compressed in few years. So do you know how fast you have to live? So you should know this. To be perpetually reborn is the condition of a material immortality. And mind you, if you can live like that, you will be physically also immortal. Aurobindo proved it, Mother proved it, and what Sri Aurobindo couldn't do physically because of some time inhibitions. Later, in the end of this integral yoga, we will understand super mind and time and space. So what Mother did, she took the charge. She revolutionized the mental, physical and astral units by which the human body is made up. For a human body to be made up, each cell is not enough. You remember it, just being a cell is not enough. Especially for ourselves, we should get these. You are understanding what I mean by cell? CEL, cell. In biochemistry, I am talking about the biochemical molecules. Every cell of us must have been a part of a sadhaka in previous lives. You try to understand the breadth of this statement. Your hair, your fingernails, your entire body is made up of cells which were previously of some great sadhakas. If not, you cannot understand this. Do you think you are understanding it because you are understanding it and you know a bit of English? You remember this. To be perpetually reborn is the condition of material immortality. Therefore, if you can handle the cells of your body, and scientists say that every 7 years, every cell of our body is replaced. It is a fact in nature. Every cell of your body is replaced and you are alive. So if you can, with consciousness, replace your body's cells, you will become physically immortal. The technology, I don't remember, Satprem has written a book, The Man.
Mind of Sense.
Huh? No, some Germans. Read that book. At least it will be 108. To understand integrally, I am giving you the essence of it. With this in mind, you read that book. When you are reading this Man Beyond, that's the name of the book, you keep this. He's talking about the transformation of the cells. Then you can read it fast. And when I am talking about the biography of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, what am I? Ego sense dissolving, but still the ego is persisting. A complicated sentence seems to be contradicting each other, but it is not. The ego sense is lost, the ego persists. That is bhava mukho bhava. Then, next slide, Amma. Page 5, line 15. This is more very, very important. This is the point from where we are starting our integral yoga, synthesis of yoga. This is the starting point. This is from where we should start. We are in an age full of throes of travel, where all forms of thought and activity that have in themselves any strong power of utility or any secret virtue of persistence are being subjected to a supreme test and given their opportunity of rebirth. Very clear? All the thoughts, right from the Big Bang, when the planet Earth started its life, we have a large number of thoughts. And now at this present moment, in the cauldron of time, every thought is being tested. When you see the newspapers, when you see the developments in different planes of existence, when I say planes of existence, artists and film actors live in a different plane. The mafia leaders live in a different plane. Our lives don't crisscross, is it not? The planes are different. But when you look after the world that is alive before us, you find that all ancient and modern thoughts are now being tested for the truth of it. If they can survive, there is life in them. If it can't survive, there is no life in it. And the real thought that has any life, any thought that has an iota of life, and which will continue for coming millennium of years, is what synthesis of yoga is. He synthesizes every thought in the world, every thought, the positive thoughts as well as the negative thoughts. With that emotion, you read it. I knowingly use this word emotion. You have the emotion to integrate the right and the wrong, the left and the right. And we are in an age full of throes of travail, when forms of thought and activity that have in themselves any strong power of utility or any secret virtue of persistence are being subjected to a supreme test and given their opportunity of rebirth. And that is where India has to play its role as Jagadguru. Again, you have to be reborn as a Jagadguru, but in the present ages. Don't try to repeat the back stages. Don't try to become and use the thoughts of 5,000 years back. And how Sri Aurobindo has molded it, we will read it. Next, page 5, line 23. Indian Yoga, all of you got it? Indian Yoga Indian yoga, in its essence, is a special action or formulation of certain great powers of nature, itself specialized, divided, and variously formulated, is potentially one of these dynamic elements of future life of humanity. Now, what is he is talking about? Indian yoga is going to be reborn. Is it clear? The sentence is very clear. It is being reborn. Then line 27. The child of immemorial ages, preserved by its vitality and truth into our modern times, it is now emerging from the secret schools and ascetic retreats in which it had taken refuge and is seeking its place in the future sum of living human powers and utilities. Very obvious, the meaning is very clear. The future of humanity lies in the rebirth of yoga. That is what he means by these words. And we, as the students of this science, must see that this science is not only understood clearly by us, but it is being practiced by the cultured people of humanity. We can't expect all to practice this science, but those who are interested in it must become really actively interested. Next. Page 6, line 4. The traditional yoga has 8 limbs: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. It has to be reorganized. We need not reorganize. He has reorganized it here in these 2 books. You have to understand. This is the motto with which we should read. How the reorganizing itself, what? The yogic truths, which were once in the ancient retreats, which were not given to the public, which were once secret, must be reorganizing itself. It will enter more easily and powerfully into the reorganized race of the life, which its processes climb to lead within into the most secret penetralia and upward to the highest attitudes of existence and personality. Clear itself? Clear? Next. Page 6, line 22. This is what we should always remember. This is the message what Sri Aurobindo got in the jail. For full 14 days he heard the voice of Vivekananda. But the crux of what Sri Aurobindo got as a message from Vivekananda, who was just touching the limits of overmind. He didn't talk about supramind. He was touching. Why I am saying all this is, when once we enter into the real practice of the mind, you should know where we are. So we put our brain thought process with these persons. If you are thinking like Vivekananda, you are almost in the far edge of overmind. If you are thinking like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, you are in the Bhavamukha, in between intuitive mind and illumined mind. And I have given you a homework, I think, about Shankaracharya and Ramanuja. And if a hint may help you, it is believed that Christ has been reborn as Ramanuja. If this may help you, I am not talking about the real aspects of that, is it really true or not. I am going to give this example only to test your ideology, how Christ thought and how Ramanuja thought, and is there any similarity and a growth? That is why I am giving this example. It is supposed by a cult that Christ is again reborn as Ramanuja. And probably if this can be explained, many of these religious clashes can be avoided. If Christ becomes Ramanuja, no problem. Then yoga, as Swami Vivekananda has said, may be regarded as a means of compressing one's evolution into a single life or a few years or even a few months of bodily existence. Do you understand why this time scale is given? We who are linked with Sri Aurobindo must finish it in a few months. Why? Self-evident. Because you are being taught from so many lifetimes by him. If you are coming for the first time towards him, single lifetime. If once you touch Sri Aurobindo and come back, and touch Sri Aurobindo and come back, few years. So one thing is guaranteed, you will understand it in this life. And if we are really interested, we can finish it in few months, maybe in a week, who knows. Next. Yogic methods have, can I take 15 minutes extra? Have something of the same relation to the customary psychological working of man as has the scientific handling of the force of electricity or steam to their normal operations in nature. We utilize mind in daily life. We utilize steam in daily life. But in a steam engine, you utilize the same steam knowing its laws. And do you know how powerful it becomes? Similarly, just like natural electricity and natural steam are almost very harmless things, not very potent. Similarly, our mind is very harmless. But once you go into the yogic methods, they become very powerful, just as steam and electricity becomes very powerful when you know its laws. And here in integral yoga, you are going to know the laws of mind. And the first law I have given you, remember it, don't forget it. Every part of your body regenerates itself every day. And if you are capable of attracting the correct yogic cell, your body becomes the yogic body. You are every day reborn. You can become physically immortal. 10, page 8, line 6. From below. Okay? All of you got it? Page line 6 from below. The true and full object and utility of yoga can only be accomplished when the conscious yoga in man becomes conscious yoga. Nature is always practicing yoga and furthering you in evolution. Conscious yoga, like the subconscious yoga in nature, outwardly coterminous with life itself, and we can once more, looking out both on the path and the achievement, say in a more perfect and luminous sense, all life is yoga. Next slide. We perceive then these three steps in nature. I have removed the word perceive, it doesn't mind. A bodily life which is the basis of our existence here in this material world, what is known as the Sthula Sharira, Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha, the nervous system. So what Sri Aurobindo says is, in nature there are always three steps. A step is completely finalized and perfected. Another step is in the process of growing, and the third step is in the process of coming. So what we have already achieved in this body is, we have mastered Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha. Have we mastered? If you do the yoga of Annamaya Kosha, asanas, you master Annamaya Kosha. And if you do pranayama, your nervous system becomes capable enough to let the higher mind come down. Forget about supermind. Let the higher mind come down. But for this, what you have to do? You have to do pranayama. And that is where Sri Aurobindo also started. His life is his message. Don't say that I won't do pranayama because I am an integral yoga practitioner. You have to integrate pranayama also. You have to integrate asanas also. And then remember that these two are completely perfected. What we can do is, we can spoil them. You always get a perfect Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha from birth. What we are doing now, by mismanagement, we have dwindled the already perfect Annamaya and Pranamaya Koshas. Let us revive it. And then what? We have a mental life. See about page 12, line 12. He has in him not only a single mentality but a double and a triple, the mind, material and nervous. Got the lines? Got it? Second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ninth line, second paragraph. He has in him not a single mentality but a double and a triple, the mind, material and nervous, the pure body and the senses, the intellectual mind which liberates itself from the illusions of the body and senses, and the divine mind above intellect which in its turn liberates itself from the imperfect modes of the logically discriminative and imaginative reason. And now we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Second paragraph. From below, you go to the 10th line above. The true human existence, therefore, only begins when the intellectual mentality emerges out of material and we begin more and more to live in the mind independent of the nervous and physical obsession, and in measure of that liberty are able to accept rightly and rightly use the life of the body. Now you understand what I am saying. A mental life, it has 3 levels of mind. The first is the mind, material and nervous, which we are using. Material in day-to-day life, we are using the material mind and the nervous mind. Next, pure intellectual mind, which liberates itself from the illusion of the body and the senses. And next, a divine mind above intellect, which liberates itself from the imperfect modes of logically discriminative and imaginative reasons. The A is the lower mind. The B is our normal mind with which we do our day and day affairs. And in C we have 4 levels. The higher mind, the illuminative mind, the intuitive mind and the overmind. And after that, in Vijnanamaya Kosha, you have the supermind. Next. The mental life, page 14, line 1. First line itself. In this conclusion that I have left, the mental life, far from being a recent appearance in man, this is what I want all of you to note. A mental life, far from being a recent appearance in man, is the swift repetition in him of a previous achievement from which the energy in the race has undergone one of her deplorable recoils. This is where I am giving you that guarantee that in 1 year you can understand the Vijnanamaya Kosha because of some fault, some defect in our mental nature. The supermind couldn't decide at that time, 5,000 years ago. That was the plane of overmind when the Mahabharata war was going on. And when you read the second section, you will find that much what Sri Aurobindo has said is what has been told in Gita plus something else. So we have fallen from the state of overmind when we were in that plane. When Sri Aurobindo was Sri Krishna, for me it is a fact. But why I don't say it, in integral yoga every man has got his own thought processes. But for me, Sri Aurobindo is the direct descent of the Sri Krishna consciousness of overmind from the start, and he reached the supramental level in this plane in this era. That is why that guarantee, all of us, if you can understand what is written here, the mental life, far from being a recent appearance in man, is the swift repetition in him of a previous achievement from which the energy in the race has undergone one of her deplorable recoils. So I am going to give you the challenge. Reach the overmind. You have already obtained it once, you can obtain it again. Then page 15, last para. Removed few words. But you now understand what we are going to do. We have to understand what is evolution and hasten it quickly, because you are only in a recoiling aspect. And then assertion of a higher than mental life, higher than overmind, its acquisition and organization is the object of yoga. Next. Page 16, para 2. And now Sri Aurobindo very clearly states that you try to use the Sanskrit terminology. Never be a slave to the English terminology, because he says that the English terminology cannot convey the real truths of yoga. So, I am giving you this terminology. Sthula Sharira is Annamaya and Pranamaya koshas. In the paragraph, he has given the details. I have just taken up the Sanskrit equivalents and projecting it. All of you are following it? I have not.
If you go to the previous slide, coming to this page 15, last paragraph, this mental life is mentioned there.
Is the whole foundation of Indian philosophy. I have just removed it because it is now an integral philosophy.
So this mental life, did you mention is to be treated as overmind?
No.
Fine.
But Gita was given in the plane of overmind. So Sri Krishna himself evolved, and his evolution you can understand by his childhood to the Vrindavan's Rasa Leela, and again his playing of Murali, and then he has not used the Murali, he has used only the Chakra. So these four levels you can see in the four levels of Sri Krishna's life. His childhood, higher mind, where he conquers the lower Rakshasas, Putanavadha, Trunavartavadha, and Sakadasuravadha. All this is the higher mind. And the higher mind can very easily kill the lower mind. Even though you may think that the lower mind is very powerful, the higher mind naturally can subjugate the lower mind. That is where he kills all the Rakshasas. You understand now? The Krishnas, these leelas of killing the devils and demons and all this belong to the higher mind. And the illumined mind is the incident of the Brahma stealing the calves and you are remembering the story? Brahma thinks, this small boy, how can he be an avatar? And what he does is, he takes all the calves and cows and all the gopalas and puts them in what the modern term we will know as hijacking. And what happens? After 1 year he comes back and sees everyone is there. He recreates it. So from higher mind, where does he go? To the illumined mind. A illumination can create shadows. And remember, this body is a shadow of our higher mind. So that is that life in Sri Krishna where he goes into the illumined mind. And when he goes to the Rasa Leela, it is the intuitive mind. Everyone intuits everyone. Everyone feels that he is with Sri Krishna. It is the plane of intuition. That Rasa Leela is much misunderstood because you make it a physicality. If you make it a physicality, naturally it will sound very absurd and very silly. But now if you can understand it as a intuitive mind. And how the sound of the Murali, how the breath, which is equated with Vijnanamaya Kosha, you can understand how the illumined mind converts into a intuitive mind. And after that, till Mahabharata, the development of the overmind continues. And with his leaving the physical body, he allowed the overmind to rule till 1911. Till 1911, it was the overmind which was recoiling. That is what in the first, we have a fall. All of us were with Sri Krishna in the overmind stage. There is a recoil, but the overmind stage was maintained by Sri Krishna permanently. A very interesting factor. Similarly, till the millennium, Sri Aurobindo is going to keep the supramental stage alive. To whosoever is interested to go there, he will go there only because of Sri Aurobindo. Anyone who can understand Einstein's law can go there only because of Einstein. Because you are tuned to his mind. Clear? Recognizes besides the status of our physical and vital being, termed the gross body and doubly composed of the foot sheath and the vital vehicle, besides the status of our mental being, termed the subtle body and singly composed of the mind sheath and mental vehicle, a third supreme and divine status of supramental being, termed the causal body and composed of the fourth and fifth vehicle. So this is the terminology which we should remember. What Sri Aurobindo very clearly talks about as supramental descent, they have been hinted at. Remember the word hinted at. Hinted at doesn't mean they knew it. They have, the rishis have a concept that there is something higher than the mind. But Sri Aurobindo has given it a scientific permanence, a scientific formulation. And that scientific formulation is of the Karana Sharira, composed of Vijnana and Anandamaya Koshas. And where we are to concentrate as the practitioners of integral yoga is the Sushma Sharira, the Manomaya Kosha. The various levels of mind we have to comprehend, and then we have to understand. Here we will stop it. But tomorrow I will be a bit fast and I will try to finish about 200 pages.